Well, welcome everyone. We're, of course, very excited to be working with the hospice on this Geneva to Nice cycle ride. I'm just going to talk through quickly what we'll cover this evening, just so you know what we're going to talk about. We'll talk for about approximately 30 to 40 minutes, and then there'll be an opportunity for questions at the end. But in summary, we'll just do some brief introductions as to who we are and how we fit into here alongside Willen. We're going to talk about the challenge itself, a challenge overview, essentially what it is and what you'll be doing. I'm then going to hand over to Tony. He's going to talk about the day-by-day itinerary, what each day looks like on the trip. We'll talk through the event package, what's included in that. We'll look at what a typical day on the bike looks like, so how we manage the tour, just so you know what to expect there. Training preparation, clearly key for something of this magnitude. Fundraising, and then I'm going to hand over to Dawn, and she's going to talk about Willen Hospice and the amazing work that you do here. And then, as I say, questions at the end. Okay, so who are we? So we are Mellow Jersey. So Mellow Jersey was founded in 2016, following a career in management consultancy for me, so very different now. It's grown year on year, and we now do approximately 25 tours a year across Europe and the UK. So as you can see here, I'm really a mixture of things. So we have a scheduled tour programme that we run each year in Mallorca, Italy, mainland Spain, Sardinia, UK, Scotland, a few others I've probably forgotten. So that's our kind of scheduled tour programme. Behind that we run trips such as these, working with charities and corporates for fundraising. So your typical kind of London to Paris, Geneva to Nice, lots of different challenges, Lanzarote, John O'Groats. We also take people to big European sportives, and finally we do some training camps in Mallorca mainly, but also in Calpe in mainland Spain. So there's some things we take really seriously, which is meticulous planning, health and safety, making sure you have a great cycling experience. There's some things that we don't take so seriously, and that's pretty much ourselves. We're very lucky that we've got a great group of people, including Pete, that doesn't take himself too seriously either, who enjoy coming along and cycling with like-minded people like yourselves and just having plenty of fun along the way. So, the challenge. So this is what you're here to hear about itself. So the challenge is cycling from Geneva to Nice across the Alps. So if we look at the numbers in total, so the challenge is 635 kilometres with 14,000 metres of climbing. So it sounds like a lot, because it is. So if we look at this as an average, we've got just over 100 kilometres a day and just over 2,000 metres of climbing per day. So it's not a trip for the faint-hearted, but what we would say is it is achievable for with the right training for any keen cyclist. So the key is really in the preparation to enable you to take this on. So you see here the map on the right hand side, essentially leaving Lake Geneva, working your way down over the mountains down to Nice, which is a great finishing point on the Côte d'Azur. So part of that we'll tackle 9 major cols. So there's a great profile here that Tony's put together along the bottom, which shows the major climbs here. So these 9 cols, you've probably heard of most of them, and all of them are featured in the Tour de France. So for any kind of key Tour de France enthusiasts, which I think, talking to some of you here, you're pretty keen following the tour. These are the climbs that you've seen on the TV that you then get to tackle for yourself. So yeah, as it says here, it's basically a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for any keen cyclist. It gives you plenty of kudos with your mates. So I'm going to hand over to Tony now. He's just going to talk through day by day the route and the day-by-day itinerary to give you a flavour there.
Thank you very much, Emma. Yep, okay, so as Emma rightly said, my name's Tony. Just by way of an introduction to myself, I've been running cycling tours in and around Europe and the UK for the past 8 years now, for various different companies. But back in 2018, whilst on one of those trips, bumped into a young lady who just started Mellow Jersey the year prior, done a lot of hard work, and then I joined on and basically jumped onto all of her hard work and pretended it was mine. So yeah, we've been running Mellow Jersey together now for the past 5 years, so this is our 5th year together running Mellow Jersey, and yeah, it's gone from strength to strength. Intertwined in that is many tours across the Alps in varying different guises. We did a very similar route to this last year with a group, and yeah, it's a fantastic route. It's challenging, but it is by no means out of reach for people that want to just really push themselves and put the effort in to achieve something quite remarkable, and it is definitely within reach. So those numbers that Emma spoke about are quite big, so I'll try and break those down a little bit for you, just to give you an indication on how the days look rather than how the overall challenge looks. So we'll start on day one. Having arrived in Geneva the night prior and done all the welcome meeting and the briefings, the following morning we will leave. Sorry, I forgot to give a little precursor. I apologise in advance for my horrendous French pronunciation. My GCSE and A-level French doesn't quite carry me over with some of this, so in advance I do apologise. We'll be setting off from Thonon-les-Bains over to Lake Annecy on day one. So this is a 140-kilometre ride with just under 3,200 metres of climbing. So very much sets the standard today. Today is the biggest numbers of the whole trip. So yeah, nothing like easing you in nice and gently, but it is a fantastic ride. So the start of the day, the first kind of 20-25 kilometres, we'll be following the path of the Gorge de Pont Diable. Sorry about that. Before hitting the first col of the tour. So the first col of the tour, as we leave the pretty town of Morzine, around 35 kilometres in, we will hit the col de Joplin. So the Joplin has featured in the Tour de France approximately 13 times over the course of its history. Most recently 2 weeks ago, so it was a stage won by Carlos Rodriguez, the Team Ineos rider. I think it's their only win of the whole tour so far. So quite a good ride from him. It's around 11 kilometres long, so it's very much a sustained climb for 11 kilometres. The average gradient is 6%. You'll hear that quite a lot over the next few minutes. 6% is generally the average gradient of the cols in the French Alps. There will be steeper bits and there will be shallower bits, but generally speaking, overall, they're around about 6%. So the Joplin is 6%, there are sustained ramps within that of up to 10%, so sort of double-digit ramps where you climb at sort of 2 or 3 kilometres at that amount, so it can get quite steep. We'll summit at 1,700 metres, so 1,700 metres above sea level. As we get to the top, it opens out hopefully with blue skies and incredible views over the Mont Blanc range, which is just a superb view, really, really amazing view that just opens up just as you get to the top. So just reward for the work you've put in to get there. We'll then descend, so for every long raking ascent there is a long raking descent to try and get some recovery into your legs and just to sort of reap the reward of the climb you've done. So round about 20 kilometre descent before hitting the second climb of the day. Again, another kind of col that has appeared on the Tour de France several times, I think 23 in total. Most recently in 2021, stage 8, and that is the Col de la Colombière. So again, 17 kilometre climb, around about 6% average, I told you you'd hear it a lot. With 13% maximum ramp towards the middle and towards the top of the climb. We'll summit that one at 1,600 metres above sea level. That's fine. So as we get to the top of the Colombière, again stunning views of Mont Blanc, but a superb descent which takes us all the way down into Lake Annecy. Lake Annecy is a very, very pretty lake, and you'll get panoramic views as you go down into the lake. Superb way to end the first day. Day 2, we'll be leaving Lake Annecy and heading almost due south to Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne. So this is 126 kilometres and just under 2,800 metres of climbing. So less distance, less climbing. A day off. So the first 20 kilometres today are a really nice way to ease yourself into it, whereas yesterday you've been climbing fairly steadily right from the gun. The first 20 kilometres of this day is generally pretty flat. We go along the north shore of Lake Annecy for the first 7 or 8 kilometres before a little climb, and then another kind of 12 kilometres where it's almost pan flat going along superb French kind of cycle path, which is traffic free and just wonderful. We will then get to the little town of Fabergé and the Col de Taimi. Col de Taimi is featured on the Tour de France 15 times, most recently in 2013, and that was a stage won by Pierre Roland. This is a 10-kilometre climb. Unlike most of the other cols, this is a fairly steady climb, so it averages at around about 3%. The first part of the climb is fairly steep, it's around 8 or 9%, but only the first 2 kilometres. It then sort of ramps right down to around 3%, so just a very, very nice, gentle climb to wake your legs back up after the first day's exertion. Once we drop down from Col de Taimi, we'll get down to Albertville, which is where the Winter Olympics were in 1992. It's a place that's littered with kind of the relics of that Winter Games, so the long jump and all the other sort of Winter Games stuff is still kind of in place there in Albertville. It's also etched in the history of the Tour de France as well. You know, there's not a Tour de France that hasn't gone through this area at some point or other. So yeah, you'll be seeing and hearing that name on the Tour de France all the time. As we leave Albertville, there's a little climb to get up to a medieval citadel called Conflans, which is where we generally look to stop for lunch on this day. It's a fantastic and very unique part of French history, really, really pretty thing, just to break up the day and to make you sort of try and take your mind off the climbing that's ahead. What is ahead is the Col de Madeleine. So again, Col de Madeleine, probably a personal favourite of mine in the French Alps. It's an absolutely fantastic climb. The difficulty with this climb is not in the steepness but the length. So this climb is 26 kilometres long. So an average rider would probably be climbing this mountain for around 2.5 hours. So it is a big old day, big old climb. The good news is that there are sections within it that flatten out. So again, it averages at 6%. With the odd, several ramps there are up to 11%. However, there are sections within the middle that flatten out and give you a nice little break before going again. So
what
yeah,
goes down must go up though, right?
What goes down must go up, but then goes down again. So we're okay.
This is still day 2.
This is still day 2. Believe it or not, it is. But the day will end. I can promise you that. Once we get to the top of the Madeleine, we are then looking down along the Marianne Valley, which again is littered with Tour de France climbs. Fantastic descent off this, nice wide road, you're able to see way into the distance, so there's an opportunity here really to just enjoy the descent and just take in the beauty and the magnificence of the French Alps. It is wonderful. The 26 kilometre climb will be soon forgotten on the 26 kilometre descent. The Madeleine, not only being 26 kilometres, is also almost the first 2,000 metre summit of the trip. So it's 1,993 metres. So if anyone wants to go down and back up again just to make the extra 7, then you're more than welcome. It's been on the Tour de France 24 times, most recently in 2020, stage won by Richard Carapaz. Yep, so that is day 2. Day 3. So again, we'll be riding from Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne, which is the finish point of day 2, out to the town of Briançon. Now, this is a mere 84 kilometres with only 2,400 metres. Simple, easy, early finish, loads of bars of Briançon. So the first 15 kilometres is along a trunk road. It's probably not the prettiest part of the trip, but we're riding along the trunk road, which takes us from Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne to Saint-Jean-de-Michel, which is the kind of the very foot of the first climb of the day, the Col de Telegraph. The Telegraph is 11 kilometres long, with an average gradient of 6%. It's a forest. It's a road that's covered by the forest for the vast majority, so the good news with this climb is you'll be kept nice and cool throughout the course of the ride. There's no sun beating down on your back, you are just sort of covered by forest. It occasionally opens out to the views, which is nice. So you get the odd bit of a reprieve from the forest line, so you can actually see a bit of the mountain range, but it was generally through the forest, which is nice and cool. We'll then drop down off the telegraph down to the small town of Valois, which signifies the start of probably the most famous climb of the whole trip, which is the Col du Galibier. The Col du Galibier has been on the Tour de France countless times, over 30 times I think it's appeared since the Second World War. It was most recently appeared on the Tour in 2022, so last year, won by one Vingegaard, who went on to win the Tour de France that year. So the Galibier is 17 kilometres with... No, 7%. This one is 7%. So 17 kilometres in total. And it's very much a climb of two parts. So as you leave Valois, there's a steep sort of 2 kilometre section just to get away from the valley, into the valley, and then it levels right out to kind of 2 and 3%, which visually looks pan flat. And you're riding along and you're thinking, why am I struggling here? Why is this difficult? And you start thinking, my legs have gone, I've done too much cycling the last 3 days, why am I doing this? It's bizarre, but yeah, it's basically, it's an 8 kilometre section where you are sitting at 3%, and it can get quite soul destroying. But the good news is you've then got a right-hand turn up the valley wall, which ranks up to kind of like 12 to 14%. So after the 8 kilometres of lower climb, the main climb, the last 7 kilometres, is very, very steep indeed. So it's probably, I'd probably say the most challenging stretch of the trip is getting to the top of the Galibier once you make that right-hand turn.
There's certainly always snow on top, no matter what month you're there as well.
Yeah, we were up there in June and there was a 12-foot snowdrift from the top of the Galibier. So it's, this is the highest point of the whole trip. So when you summit, you get up to 2,560 metres above sea level. So it's sort of bordering on, sort of thin oxygen levels and all that kind of thing. And, you see people with crampons and all sorts. So it's quite a momentous thing to get to the top of it. So
is there a big change in temperature?
Yeah, so you kind of get, so the rule of thumb is that you lose a degree for every 100 metres. So if you imagine, if you're at 30 degrees at the bottom, 2,500 metres, you're looking at single digits by the time you get to the top.
Yeah, we had a cyclist in a puffer jacket and her jeans at the top of the climb there this June.
So how would you prepare for that?
So whilst you're climbing, you won't notice the difference in temperature, but our support vehicles will be at the top, and you can distribute the clothing because the descents obviously are quick, and the weather can come in quite quickly at the top there, and when it does, it does. We generally have a support vehicle that's at the top that can distribute your clothing, distribute your clothing to you to ready for the descent. So we'll be in strategic points just to make sure that you guys don't catch kind of hypothermia. So yes, it can get chilly. Speaking of which, so the descent is quite a technical descent. As we come off the Galibier, there's about 6 kilometre descent along tight switchbacks, narrow road. So it is a case of just concentrating. We'll then get down to the junction from the Galibier and then at the Col de Lotterie. Col de Lotterie takes you down to the Bourg d'Oisans Valley, which is home to the Alpe d'Huez. We're going to carry on to Briançon, so descend further down. Once we get to that junction there, the descent into Briançon is another just fantastic.
32 kilometres down.
32 kilometres down all the way into Briançon.
Are we allowed to go off-piste at this point? Because I've got some unfinished business with Gran.
Oh, the Gran, okay.
So there'll be a couple of us, if Alex goes as well, that will want to go and do Gran as well. Back down into Briançon.
Yeah, we can certainly have a conversation about how we can look at supporting it for you. Yeah. You're an idiot to do it. You can if you want.
Feel free.
Yeah, absolutely. By all means, it's right there. So I'm sure we can have a conversation about it. Yeah.
It's interesting about temperature, isn't it, as well? We've been up there when it's been cold, like we were just saying, we've been up there when it's been so hot the tarmac's been running off, like melting and off the road.
They've just relayed the road in preparation for the Tour de France coming through, and it was in 2019 when they had the severe heat wave, not dissimilar to the one they're having right now, and the tar seal had melted. It was rolling down the hill. Like it was
bizarre, yeah.
Very hot. Okay, that is day 3. Day 4. Day 4 we'll leave Briançon and head over to Bas-Lonet. So this is a stage just over 100 kilometres, 101 kilometres, and again just under 2,800 metres of climbing. Now, don't say we don't give you anything. Today we'll be starting the climb immediately. There is, no warm-up. We will be hitting the climb as soon as we're out of the hotel. Yes, you're welcome. Yet another 2,000 metre plus summit, so just under 2,400 metres up at the top is the Col du Isard. Again, it's another iconic climb that's etched in the history of the Tour de France. It's actually got over 40 appearances in the Tour de France since its debut in 1922. Most recently in 2019, which was a stage won by Nairo Quintana. Strangely enough, it's also appeared in the Giro d'Italia. So the Col du Isard is right on the French-Italian border. In the 40s and 50s, the Isard appeared on the Giro, but not in recent history. Another stunning descent, which takes you through kind of Granite Gorge, super beautiful descent, beautiful scenery. You've worked hard on the climb, so you are rewarded with the descent. But again, you're welcome. As soon as you get off the descent, you are straight into the second 2,000 metre summit of the day, as we leave Guillestre, again French pronunciation, thank you, up to the Col de Var. Col de Var is a 19 kilometre climb with an average of 6%. However, this is somewhat skewed, as there is one sustained section where it really does flatten off. So in the middle of the climb, you're doing about 4 kilometres where it is pan flat. The second stage of the climb is quite steep. So it's a challenging latter part of the day for everyone involved. This has been the Col de Var has appeared 33 times in the Tour de France. Most recently 2019. And again, the good news is once you climb to the top, there is a 30 kilometre descent all the way into base, so there is a pattern emerging. Day 5. So day 5, Bas-Lonet to Castellan, 91 kilometres and only 1,800 metres of climbing. So in actual fact, today will signal the last major col of the trip. So day 5, early doors, we'll be climbing the Col des Alos, which is a climb that, interestingly enough, appeared on the first Tour de France, and then appeared on every single Tour de France for the first 25 years. So it was an ever-present up until just before the Second World War. After the Second World War interrupted the Tour de France, it didn't make a reappearance until 1975. And then another appearance in 2000 and one more in 2015. So I don't know what the Col d'Alos did during the war, but it upset the organisers of the Tour de France. Again, slightly different to the 6% averages that we've been talking about. So this climb is almost exclusively 7%. So there aren't really any steep bits, but there aren't any shallow bits. It is 17 kilometres at 7%. So it's one of those climbs where you just sit in and just turn your pedals until you get to the top. There's nothing really to sort of hurt the legs too much. It's just 7% for a long time. Technical descent, so the Col d'Alos is probably one of the more obscure climbs in that it's not a major passageway. So the road itself is actually quite narrow. It's almost kind of like, imagine a Scottish single track. So the descent is quite technical, but then as you get further down the climb, it does open quite nicely. to a 55 kilometre descent. So imagine going downhill for 55 kilometres.
It's a whole ride in like normal people as well.
That's a whole ride, yeah, exactly. Yeah, just think about your average speeds. Obviously, well within reason.
Yeah, going safely.
Going safely.
Keep upright would be good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, the main challenge is making sure your fingers don't stiffen up with the brakes. But yeah, once you get to the top, that's generally it for the trip. You can really start thinking about enjoying the processional ride that is the following day, because you've kind of cracked it. You've broken the 9 holes of the trip. And it's just a really lovely long descent down into Castellan. As we get towards Castellan, we'll hit the the Verdon Valley. So not the gorge of the Verdon, but the Verdon Valley that feeds into the gorge. Spectacular kind of granite cliff faces, all that kind of thing. Really, really beautiful arrival into Castellan. Finally, day 6. Home run. So, as I said, the last day, day 5, shows the last col of the trip. But the last day of the trip is very much a wonderful kind of processional ride into the Côte d'Azur. So we'll be sort of going through the foothills of the Alps for the majority of the day. No sustained climbing really to speak of. There's 1,000 metres. I know that sounds like quite a chunky ride in most people's books, but by comparison, 1,000 metres over 92k, there's a couple of kind of foothills to get over, but no massive cols. There will be plenty of opportunity to see the insanely blue Mediterranean Sea kind of just coming into focus. We'll actually hit the famous Promenade des Anglais after 80 kilometres, so we'll have a nice 12-kilometre ride along the promenade as a real sort of processional kind of congratulatory ride as we conclude the trip. So sounds easy, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Have we got any questions at all on the route?
We're just looking at it on your phone.
Yeah, which ones have done?
Yeah.
So did the attack last year.
Okay.
Yeah, those ones, yeah.
Good stuff.
Is the route available to look at or study?
Well, this is kind of the general route, which
Yeah.
we can share with you. There might be some tweaks and changes based on obviously lunch locations, and also we're just in the process of finalising hotels. Obviously, a few tweaks, but yeah, we can make that.
Share
to you.
draft route.
Yeah.
Yeah. And is there like a time limit on each ride?
Daylight.
24 hours?
Obviously, I will talk a little bit about this in a minute. So basically, we'll try and get you off fairly early in the morning, just to give you as much time as possible in the evenings to afternoon and evening to recover ready for the next day, and also just to minimise the amount of riding in total blasting heat where that happens. So yeah.
And what sort of temperatures would you be looking at?
September generally, with the present environment, we can't give any guarantees, but you're looking at around about 25 in the valleys, maybe down to 10 at the tops.
Pleasant riding.
But lunch stops and stuff like that, they're going to be, is that?
Yeah, we'll cover that actually just a bit. Yeah.
I'll hand over back over to Emma about
we'll just
all
go
the
over a bit on the
ins and
kind of
outs.
event logistics and package.
Sorry, yeah.
We'll go through that. So, okay, hopefully that's not too daunting for everyone. As we kind of said at the start, it's a challenging ride but achievable for keen cyclists with the right preparation. So, just a little bit here on the package and what that includes. So there is an information pack available either on the website or from the Willen team that has most of this information in about the route, the overview of the route in the package. So the aim here is really to put everything in place on your behalf, so all you need to think about is riding your bike, just to make things really easy for you. So package includes 7 nights accommodation, including breakfast. That is based on the twin share. We have some solo occupancy supplements, but clearly if we're a really big group, what we want to do is maximise as much as possible the number of people who can come on the tour. So if you do want a single occupancy room, just let us know ASAP. Lunch and snacks on riding days, so we typically do those from either local restaurants, local cafes, or there's also sometimes opportunities for us to put picnics on at an amazing viewpoint, which also works really well in terms of time efficiency as well, to keep you moving on the road as much as possible throughout the day. group transfers from Geneva Airport and to Nice Airport, so flights aren't included in the package, but we will tell you which flights to book to coincide you with group transfers from the airport at the other end. So those will be from Luton as your local airport, but if there are people that want to come from elsewhere, we can look at other flights and tie this in as well. There will be a daily group briefing each day, so before dinner we normally get together as a group, normally with a small beverage, and just talk about what's coming on the next day, timings, the route. Tony will do a recap on the route, and just any kind of key logistics that you need to know for the next day. Luggage transfer, that's self-explanatory, we will take your bag for you, and mechanical support if you need both. There'll be guides on the road and in the vehicles, so if you need any support in terms of punctures, bike wheels, we're here to help you with that. And then finally, to make things easy, we'll be picking your bikes up from here in Milton Keynes, taking them to the start, and then bringing them back at the end for anyone that's still keen to ride it after this.
So sorry, do the bikes go by land? Or
They do.
by-
Yeah, exactly. We've got a van that's kind of kitted out with bike racking that we can take your bikes safely over there and back again. Not included flight tickets, as I said, we'll tell you which ones to book to coordinate that. Sometimes as well people decide they want to go spend a bit of extra time at the start or the end, so we can help with that too. Lunch is included with water, but there is generally opportunities to buy other drinks that you like at lunch times. Sports nutrition, so generally we find it's best if you stick with a sports nutrition brand that works for you and your stomach. There's nothing worse than having a bit of a dicky tummy from trying some new gel that's supposed to be getting you up the mountains but you haven't tried before, so we generally recommend that you bring that with you on the tour. Dinners at your own expense, but we will make reservations for the group in the evening, and that's normally kind of a set menu in the hotel, but that will be at your own expense. Extras in hotels, that's self-explanatory, and travel insurance. So it is part of our terms and conditions that all riders have travel insurance that cover you for cycling on our trips, and also cancellation and a few other bits and pieces, but there is specific details on that on the booking form when you look to sign up. But if you have any questions on that, just let us know. Okay. A typical day on tour, so just to give you an insight about how typically things work on these types of events. So it's pretty simple. Basically, you mostly just have to think about getting yourself up and getting on your bike, getting to the other end, and everything else is pretty much done for you. It's generally a pretty early start, nothing too bonkers, but normally breakfast at 7:30ish to get out on the road fairly early. As I mentioned earlier, it's just good to get you in as early as possible to chill out a bit in the evenings and recover. The vans will be available after breakfast for loading bags, and then it's basically out on the road. So in terms of support, as I mentioned earlier, there'll be guides with you on the road and also in the vehicle. So you have really a choice about how you want to manage your own trip. There's a choice to either ride at your own pace with navigation on bike computers in smaller groups, and there will also be guides going at various paces on the road. So there's typically one mid-pace in the group, so mid-pack to ride with people there, and then there'll normally be a guide at the rear, so essentially if anyone has any problems, that they are there to kind of sweep them up and help along the way. So then we'll normally have a break mid-morning for kind of coffee/refreshments, and that's typically done from the van at an appropriate point. A bit more cycling, some more hills, and then lunch. We will definitely not go hungry on a Mellow Jersey adventure, I can guarantee you that. And then obviously finish off the day in the afternoon, check into the hotel, a couple of drinks, briefing before dinner, bed, repeat. So there's something really quite refreshing about not having to think about, basically we kind of joke, but it's kind of true, that people tend to leave their brains at home, and that's totally fine, that's what we're here for. You can just focus on getting on your bike, having a great time, eating, sleeping, chatting with your fellow cyclists, and we'll be here to hold your hand throughout. Okay, so just a little bit on training and preparation. So what we say for a challenge such as this is the key is in the training and the preparation. The more you put in up front, the better time you'll have when you're on the trip. Some of you might be already experiencing this type of trip, so it sounds like some of you got some really good experience cycling in the Alps, but for some others maybe that's not the case. It might be your first taste of doing long climbs, so it's really important to kind of replicate that as much as you can. So You can kind of follow a structured, detailed training program if you so wish. We work with some coaches that we would happily put you in touch with if there's something structured that you'd like to put together. However, it's equally possible just to keep this quite simple, and here's a few of our top tips. So really, regular riding is key. So I'd say from my experience, kind of getting out on your bike regularly and doing some shorter regular rides is better than doing very infrequent long ones. Clearly, if you can do both, that's the optimal. So really, commute if you can, do something that gets you into a routine with your riding. It's good to kind of allocate a few weekends between now and next September where you commit to yourself that you're going to ride both days. So the key is getting back on your bike on the next day and doing another fairly challenging ride back to back. And there's some really good things you can do here. There's really good events, all over the UK. I'm sure as some of you know, Audaxes, Sportives, local events, and just have a few of those penciled in to kind of really give your training some structure. It's really important to try and replicate as much as you can the distances and the climbing. Now, I do appreciate that there's not many alpine climbs in Milton Keynes, but there is some really good challenging riding around near here. So I'd say, if you can get out to the Chilterns, the Surrey Hills aren't a million miles away, and these kind of areas, there's normally some organised events where you can do like a big day of climbing that will replicate that 2,000 metres you're going to be doing on the trip itself. So that's important just to replicate at some point as much as you can. And then finally, just for a little plug because I couldn't resist, training camps. So we do training camps out in Mallorca and Calpe. These are normally pretty early season, so we appreciate that riding over the winter in the UK is pretty damn miserable on occasions, and getting out for the longer rides can be pretty tricky. So those trips run in kind of February and March, and just gives you a great opportunity to do a week of consecutive riding days, get some proper climbing in, and really to get your training, give it a boost to get ready for September. Okay, next slide. Sign me up. Here we go. So this is the link to the sign up page. So this is accessible via the Willen website or via our website with that link. So essentially, if you're ready to sign up, if you just go onto this link, there's a form there that you'll fill in with all your admin details. That will bounce into me. I'll then contact you to basically get you signed up and take your deposit. So that's that. So that's it from us. So I'm going to hand over to Dawn now, who's going to talk a bit about Willen and all the amazing work here.
So I'm really excited about this because I did Paris to Nice last year and I didn't even cycle it, and it was brilliant. And somebody in the room did some of the route and then stopped because he broke his collarbone. So we know this works, and we know that people are looking for this type of challenge, so they're good cyclists, and as Emma said, and Tony, with the right training and preparation, you can do this. And we're just saying, come and join us at Willen, and we have the experts of Mellow Jersey, and Nigel and I are really excited, recommended by Pete, to do all of the logistics, to do the bit where you've just got to get up in the morning, have your breakfast and get on your bike. And miraculously the lunch will be there, and at the end of the day they'll take your bike off you. So all those things, so you can just concentrate on cycling. Really excited to, next September we want to have a look at a minimum of 20 people join us, 20 cyclists. We can take up to 45, so I would say have a real good think about this, and if you are interested, talk to us if you've got any questions, and if not, sign up. We're doing this as a charity cycle, and obviously we're doing it for Willen Hospice. I'm the Challenges Manager, and I have the absolute pleasure of supporting people, whether they're doing a trek or a cycle or a skydive or a wing walk, watch this space, or a run. So we do it for Willen. Just as an example now, we're just starting the presentation, and a family's just lost a loved one, and they don't know where to go and they don't know where to find their car. And we try and support them from when they come to the hospice, while they're here, and then after the bereavement, we support them all of the time they need that. And we do this in this beautiful building that has 15 rooms, and they all overlook the lake now. And we're sat in a cafeteria, and everyone that walks in here goes, what a view. And our patients and their families can be here and take in the view and support. So this costs quite a lot of money to offer this support. So we have to raise £5.9 million every year. We get 20% from the government to support us. So that's the bit that we're not getting that we have to raise. And that works out just over £16,000 every day, and that's £11.23 every minute. So if you think, well, you're sat there having your coffee and you're doing something, that minute of care that we've offered people here and at home, we look after people, up to 300 people at home, that's where we can make a difference to them and their loved ones. And one way to raise that money is to do mad challenges, and that's the bit that obviously we're focusing on this evening. And people will support you and sponsor you. When you're doing these climbs and the thing's 6%, or on average it's 6%, so you know it's a real tough challenge, and even for a really good cyclist it's a massive challenge. And what we're doing obviously is organising this in Miller Jersey. Come and join us, have a great cycle, challenge yourself to complete it and finish at the end. And by the way, why not raise some money for our beautiful hospice so we can continue to offer everything we do free of charge. So that's why we're doing it. Fundraising. Okay, so this isn't a free cycle challenge. It's not come along and just enjoy yourself. So what we've done is a couple of options, and we are really flexible. So if these options do not work for you as a cyclist, come and talk to us, because we want to help support you to achieve this so you can enjoy this cycle and come and support us. And so what we do is have what we call a self-fund option. So if you are able to pay the cost yourself, so registration is £200, and that's where once you've signed up, Emma will contact you to take that payment. The remaining costs for this amazing challenge is £1,650. So that covers all the things Emma and Tony told you about. Okay, and that's why you're getting such an amazing support team, because they know what they're doing, and you have to cover those costs to make sure that everybody is safe. So that's your £1,850 that you're paying on registration, but most of it is £1,650, 60 days before you go on the trip. And Miller Jersey will invoice you for those costs. Will and Hospice get none of that. That doesn't support our care. So what we ask is every cyclist to aim a minimum, try and fundraise £1,200. When we did Paris to Nice, people smashed it. They had a fundraising target and they achieved it and more. But that's the bit that supports our care. And we totally appreciate some people cannot just pay the costs. That's not something they're able to do. So it's £200 registration, and then we ask you to fundraise the £1,650 before the 75th day before you go on this cycle challenge. So that's where you can raise money, and we give you loads of supports and loads of ideas on how to do that. We still then ask you to raise £1,200, because that is the bit that supports our care. So both options add up to £3,050. Some people may have to fundraise some of their costs. And that's why I'm here, and that's why I have this role at Willen, to help you with that. So it's not cheap, but it's an amazing experience, and the hotels and the support team and everything that we've gone through this evening will make sure that all you need to do is concentrate on your cycling, and you'll be as safe as you can be. Okay, so we have lots of support, and what I do when anyone signs up for anything like this, I arrange a coffee and we go through some ideas for you. We know that bingo works. We know that, well, actually disco bingo works even better, because we've done that. Have you not done disco bingo? So one of our Kilimanjaro trekkers did disco bingo, two of them together, and they raised £2,800 on the evening, because people brought a ticket to go along, they did an auction, a raffle. So it is possible, and people want to have a bit of fun now in return to sponsor you. We know quizzes work, so we introduce people to a local pub that does quizzes, and they go along and they take their own raffle prizes, and people then do it that way. You can have people's names on your cycle jersey, so people cycle in memory with you. You're not going to raise all this money in one big event and go, that's it, I've done it. You might have to do lots of little events and cake sales, and people do car boots, and people sell things on eBay. So there's loads of ways you can raise this money, and obviously you talk to all your family and friends, and then you talk to them a little bit nearer it, and you talk to them while you're on it. But we do appreciate times are really tough for everyone, so really here to help you with that fundraising. We do have buckets, we have banners, we have resources. We can be at your event and take card payments, those things that make it as easy as possible for people to sponsor you. So yeah, we will help you, as we say, every step of the way, or every pedal on the way, or whatever you call it on the bike. Okay. We love Team Willow, and everyone that joins anything we do, whether you're a marathon runner or a climber or a cyclist, you are Team Willow, and that's what we can do as a small local charity. So training rides, we will get a WhatsApp group going, and you can all share when you're going to do your training, and it's often, I'm going to cycle on Saturday, does anyone want to join me? And the idea is that you meet as a group before you get to next September, and you're cycling together and sharing those experiences. We do have some training plans that somebody's very kindly given us, so we can share those with you as well to get you up to those levels you need to be. Talked about the WhatsApp group. So we have a Paris to Nice WhatsApp group, and it all got quite lively the other week. I'm looking at Rich because they spotted this. So Paris to Nice was last September. They're looking at what am I going to do next September. I probably can't do one every year, we could. So let's look at planning for September 24. Bike maintenance, so we have links with Trek Cycles and Corley Cycles, and we get you all together and we talk about maintaining your bike and giving people advice on how to be as fit as they can be themselves, and also obviously the equipment that they're going to be using. And we bring you here to the cafe and we give you some food the week before you go, and we get you and say thank you and good luck for what you're about to take part in. Invite your family and friends because they've been on this training journey with you. They've probably not seen you for a few hours when you're doing your long rides. So this is our way to make sure that you feel supported. And hopefully I'll be going with you. So you'll have a willing person there during the cycle challenge in September 24. So there's a lot to take in. And we are obviously going to share this recording with people that weren't able to join us tonight. Has anyone got any questions? Well, we have our experts in the room.
Maybe about the support vans and things like that. How do you do that? Have you got 2-3 support vans? How do you space them out?
There will typically be two support vehicles on the road. There are things that there's certain jobs the vans will do each day, so one of which is getting the luggage from one hotel to the next. But generally that particular van will be doing that and getting to the lunch stops, so it kind of acts as a beacon for this is where you're going to stop for lunch. That van may then set the lunch up if it's a picnic, for example. The other van will have all the maintenance kit in it, so fully stocked toolkits, spares, bike stands, first aid equipment, all that kind of stuff. And that van will be floating within the proximity of the group.
It does depend on numbers, doesn't it, where we end up with support vehicles to an extent.
So it depends on
if there's 40 people.
If there's 40 people, they might go, but there's less than 20 or whatever, it might decrease. But a vehicle will be at strategic points throughout the course of each day, and if called upon, it will go. The vehicle will go where needed, we'll have strategic points along the course each day where we'll stop for mid-morning refreshments, for lunch, and then for an afternoon refreshment if need be, and then obviously to get to the end point to drop baggage off.
Should we take our own spare tyres, chains, everything like that?
We carry some spares. If you've got, so for example, we generally carry 11-speed chains, 11-speed quick links, and all that kind of stuff. If you've got like the 12-speed new DI2 kit or the Shron 12-speed, then I would suggest bringing your own. We don't carry things like sealant for tubeless tyres, so again it's a case of bringing your own sealant if you have tubeless. But we carry kind of, I wouldn't use the word basic, we cover fairly well the tools and the spares that you would need for the most common replacements that you require on the trip.
Anything that's like kind of specific to your bike, so kind of generally say maybe a neck hanger or things like that. We would suggest kind of bringing along, but generic, getting you going again type stuff we have.
Do you have any spare bikes or anything like that? Do you carry it just in
the
case
bike
someone has a fate? Or
One kind of medium-sized bike that can fit everywhere.
It's electric.
Yeah.
we've got a spare bike that it will generally just about fit someone. It's about 170 centimetres.
It's one of my bikes basically.
Yeah, but
Try not to crash this time.
yes.
Yes, exactly. Ride carefully.
Never say that word. Never say that word.
Or that sentence.
No, yes.
Did you say the ride leads of some first aid or medical? What's the medical support?
Exactly. So the ride lead is a first aid trained. I mean, general first aid. It's not a doctor as such, but we can assist with general first aid, and obviously they're all briefed the emergency service calling, etc. On the route. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
From experience, how spread out do the cyclists get during a day?
Quite big on something like this.
Yeah, I mean, it can be 2.5 hours on some days, so it can be quite stressed out. But there are ways and means of managing that. So if it becomes apparent that the guys at the front 2.5 hours ahead of the guys at the back, then there's ways and means to manage it on the road. So.
We generally find that refreshment and lunch breaks is a good way to kind of just get everyone back together again. So people are generally happy to spend a little bit more time at lunch to enable the steadier riders to kind of minimise the gap. Why are you
close the door to the restaurant for the faster guys so they can't leave for another half an hour.
You can't have any food until we're within an hour's
Exactly, yeah.
That was why I asked about the sport vehicles, because we were quite spread out last time, and getting
For sure.
when somebody needed help or something out of the van or something, it was just
Exactly, and
Yeah.
in some other scenarios as well, we've set some of the steadier riders off earlier, and then set the faster riders off a bit later, just so it kind of evens out a bit on the road.
Yeah.
Just I think generally the first couple of days is getting to know everyone and how they sit, isn't it? And then we can manage that a little bit better, where we know who the fast guys are and who the steady ones are.
So there are definite ways and means to make that concertina.
Yeah.
So that people aren't having to slow down and the steadier guys aren't feeling under pressure. So
Yeah. Anything else?
You said about insurance. Do you have a company you would recommend?
So we're generally we are partnered with Yellow Jersey Insurance. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Yeah.
Are you not a fan or? Oh really? That's
No.
interesting. Why did you say that?
Because EasyJet broke my bike
Oh, you're joking.
last year.
And it
Wouldn't
didn't-
pay up.
Why was there a particular reason?
Apparently I took out holiday insurance and not bike insurance. They didn't make it clear.
Oh, that's really
I took out
frustrating.
extra baggage to the higher value, thinking
Okay, that
I was
would
covered,
cover the bike. It
but
didn't.
nothing was covered, only the bag my bike was in,
Oh,
not
that's
the bike.
frustrating.
So I was really angry with them
Okay.
because it wasn't clear when I
Right.
signed up and worked out the policy.
Oh,
I
that's
won't use it.
unfortunate.
Because that's the beauty of this trip is your bike gets transported there for you securely from here and gets returned here in a van. So
Yeah.
all those hassles you normally have at airports, lost
Yeah.
bikes, broken bikes,
Yeah.
baggage and all that kind of stuff.
EasyJet didn't want to know.
Yeah,
they
this is-
said it went off.
But then we do still, insist that people have kind of bike insurance, because whilst our van is racked out and it's the best that we can, we can't take liability as such for them. All due care and attention will be taken. But
So I mean, just
so in terms of insurance, we're kind of out of options, aren't we? We've always had people have had really positive experience, so that's really frustrating. Like that.
Just to go back to the racking in the van, just to kind of give an illustration. So we've got specific racking whereby the bike will be anchored to the frame of the interior of the van using rubber clamps with pipe